Summer's coming. Let's make this cute striped triangle top. To which my kindergartner would say, actually, Mom, that's a parallelogram. But you know, it starts out triangle-y. And speaking of starting out, you're gonna need 3 colors of a 4 worsted weight cotton yarn, like Lily's Sugar and Cream. And I used a 4.5mm hook. To begin, make a magic circle, which I do with a big loose slip knot. Go ahead and chain to fasten onto the magic circle. And I'm going to start with 1 single crochet right into the circle. And chain 1. Again, single crochet in the circle. Chain 1. Continue making single crochets into the magic circle, followed by a chain 1, until you have 5 single crochets and 5 chain 1s. Make a 6th single crochet into the circle and you can close it up. Row 2 will set up the increases that will make our triangle take shape. Chain 1, turn, and into the chain 1 space between your last 2 single crochets, work 1 single crochet. Chain 1 and work another single crochet, all in the same space. Chain 1, and in the next chain space, work 1 single crochet. Chain 1. In the third chain space, work 1 single crochet, chain 1, 1 single crochet, all in the same chain space. Chain 1, 1 single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1, and into the final chain space, work an increase with a single crochet, chain 1 single crochet. After row 2, it's time to change color, and we'll change colors every 2 rows for this pattern. So grab your next color, and I just pull it through the loop on my hook and tighten that last loop up. Chain 1 and turn. Row 3. We'll work an increase into each of the previous row's increases. So into that first chain space, work 1 single crochet, chain 1, 1 single crochet, chain 1, and in each regular chain 1 space, work 1 single crochet. And chain 1. So here I'll single crochet in the next chain space and chain 1. And we've come to the next increase. So work an increase into that chain space of the increase from the previous row. Chain 1 and continue making single crochet chain 1s along the row to your last increase. And work an increase in the previous increase. Chain 1 and turn. We've got 1 more row to do in this pink color, so I can just work 1 increase into the first chain space. Single crochet chain 1 along the row. And in my center increase, I'll put an increase. And single crochet chain 1 into the chain spaces down the other side. Finally putting an increase in that last chain space. It's time to add the third color on row 5. And I bet you've got the pattern by now. We're working a linen stitch triangle, which will always have increases at the corners and single crochets in regular chain spaces followed by a chain 1. Feel free to mark those increases if you find that they're a little easy to miss. Now, I think I could carry colors up the side because we add a border later and you could hide them in there theoretically. And I wasn't thinking ahead at the time, and I did cut my yarn every time I needed to use a color again. It gave me a lot of ends to weave in, but it was worth it to have the 3-color striping effect. So continue your triangle motif until your triangle measures 7 inches from tip to bottom like this. And now we're going to elongate one side at a time to create the neckline that you saw earlier. Grab the next color in your sequence and begin the next row like you normally would, with an increase in the corner, working the linen stitch pattern up the side, but the difference here is that when you get to the chain space before your center increase, just slip stitch into that chain space. Chain 1 and turn. Now you're working back down the same row again, and work your first single crochet right here into that first chain space you see from the previous row. Chain 1 and continue in linen stitch back down to your corner increase. And when you reach your corner increase, you will work an increase into that chain space as well, just like normal. Okay, we will change color to maintain our striping pattern. And sorry if this looks a little fiddly, I'm trying to bury some yarn tails in here as I work, but you'll continue in pattern, increases in your increase, and linen stitch up the row. And now when you reach the end of your row, you will slip stitch into this last true chain space before the first single crochet of the previous row. So slip stitch right there, chain 1 and turn. Again, work your first single crochet into that first chain space and continue on in the linen stitch pattern. You can continue growing the sides of your top like this, maintaining your striping sequence until your piece measures a little less than 10 inches less than your bust size from end to end. For me, that was an additional 12 rows on either side of my center triangle. Each additional set of 2 rows on either side will add about 1 inch to the length for reference. And you could hold the top up to yourself at this point and kind of judge if the girls are covered. Now, I wanted to say one small thing about adding rows to that second side. This will probably only make sense if you're a more advanced crocheter, but you might notice that when you go to fasten on to that other corner, the right side of the previous row is facing you. You can just go ahead and fasten on and work the row how you normally would. In other crochet stitches, having 2 right sides back to back could visually kind of disrupt the stitch pattern if you're normally turning your work every row, but with the linen stitch, it looked so similar on the front and back side, it really wasn't noticeable. And if none of that made sense, then don't worry about it. Now that we have our parallelogram, we're going to add a border around the rough edges and along the sides. So go ahead and pull up the next color in your sequence into the corner increase chain space. I chained 1 to fasten on and worked 1 increase into the chain space. Continue in linen stitch up the side, and after you've worked into the last chain space, chain 1 and work 1 single crochet in the turning chain of that previous row. Chain 1, and to continue working along the top edge, identify the space that your previous color worked the slip stitch into, and work 1 single crochet in that same space. Chain 1, and find the next slip stitch and work 1 single crochet into that space. Chain 1, share a space with your slip stitch, chain 1. Continue all the way across, and when you reach your last color change, work 1 single crochet into the turning chain of that row, chain 1, and now it's back to working regular old linen stitch down the other side of the triangle. Don't forget to work an increase into that bottom corner increase. Now we just need to add our border to this rough edge on the bottom. To do this, you will work 1 single crochet into the next increases space. Without chaining, work another single crochet in the next increase space. So just right in between those 2 single crochets of the increase. Straight single crochet, no chains between for this bottom border. So just go ahead and single crochet in each increase space along the bottom. Slip stitch to the first single crochet of the border to complete the round. And on this last round of the border, we'll also work all 4 straps. So at the start of border round 2, you can just start chaining. This chain will be your first back strap. Now, I assumed I'd need a really long strap on the back and shorter straps at the neck, but the opposite was true. And I kind of had too much strap at the back and not enough strap on the neck to do a bow. So I actually recommend about an 18-inch strap for the back straps and 24-inch straps for the neck strap. But just so you know, in the tutorial, I did the opposite. So once you've chained the length of your strap, start working in single crochet back down along the chain. And when you've single crocheted into your last chain, you're back at the linen stitch border. Work just a single crochet into the increased chain space this time. Chain 1 and continue in linen stitch up the side. When you reach what looks like to be the top corner, start chaining again and make the first neck strap 24 inches long. Then work in single crochet back down that chain. Yep, there's my too short strap. After you've worked every chain, go ahead and make 1 single crochet in the next chain space on your top and continue across in the linen stitch pattern. For your neck straps to match up, you'll need to start chaining the second one from the stitch before the corner space. So the straps appear to be starting from the same spot. And after you work the second neck strap, continue in linen stitch down the other side, and when you reach the final corner, make the second back strap and finish up with a row of single crochet along the bottom. Weave in those ends, and your striped crochet top is done. I hope you enjoyed this pattern. I'll link to written instructions in the description box, and if you share this project somewhere online, make sure to tag me because I'd love to see your tops. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!